You're wearing Doc Martens?
I am.
See? I bet you're surprised I knew about Doc Martens.
Yep.
Full
Normally I wear
28
tennis shoes to
countdown
school,
from
but
28.
I figured
It's all
I'd
Get
set.
dressed up with your Doc Martens today.
Yeah, I get dressed up with my docs today.
And Superintendent White, do you know what Doc Martens are?
Never heard of them.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, they are so popular.
These type of boots.
Cool.
They've been popular for about 10 years now, I think.
Oh gosh.
Longer than that?
Yeah, so
Okay.
they were popular since I was in middle school, so that was at least 20 years ago.
Wow. Okay.
So
Yeah.
I would say so, kind of like in the late 80s, early 90s grunge
Yeah.
sort
Grunge
of
came in,
grunge
right.
sort of
The
area.
earlier
Where
grunge
is-
look were, what we called in high school,
collar, does it
shit
need to be
kickers.
straightened out? You sure?
Oh, another thing I haven't heard.
This is New England.
Real.
But they were tan, ankle boots, lace up, work boots.
Yeah, I
but
wish I had a Starbucks.
Gosh, that was like, everybody had to have them.
Really?
Yeah. That and Levi cords.
Go
We were
figure.
styling in the
Go figure.
70s in New Hampshire.
Well, in the 70s in Florida, we were wearing colored jeans in the early 70s. Colored jeans with rickrack on the bottom.
Oh, jeez. And color jeans are back.
And colored jeans are back. The rickrack's not, but
No, but the color
the
is.
colored jeans
Yep.
are back.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, everybody, we're about to start. So what we're going to be starting on is that wide shot. So just look at Leanne, smile. I'm going to cue her. She's going to turn to this teleprompter and read something, but continue to look to her. And then during the 28 minutes, feel free to, you guys know each other, feel free to finish each other's sentences and really fill in things that maybe somebody forgot and be a good
Normal.
synergy.
Is this the
Like you
camera
would
that's
be-
rolling?
They're all rolling.
They're all rolling. Okay.
So don't.
Right, so don't
Okay.
pay attention, don't
Okay.
worry about a camera
Okay.
because
All right.
he's
You look
back there
beautiful.
doing whatever he's doing.
Okay.
So I
Lori's
never know.
just-
I never know if I'm on or off or
Lori's used to this, Jason.
catches me,
Right.
cleaning my nose. I don't know. So don't clean your nose. And remember, it is tape. So anything that's doesn't work
You
be
can
taken
edit.
out. I can take it out.
I like that.
Yes.
I like the edit option.
Yes, we're not live, so we don't have to worry about that.
I've already done live. I did the school board meeting one time.
Yes,
So
that's
I've done live.
nerve-wracking. Yeah,
You did great.
that's nerve-wracking.
Thank you.
Okay, great. All right, stand by. We are rolling.
Okay.
Smiling and chatting.
Here we go again.
Talking about mini skirts and Doc Martens. And
I almost had to do 2 today, but the afternoon one got canceled.
yeah, we could put the superintendent in a mini skirt and Doc Martens
There you go.
together. Wow. Yeah. That'd make for a good board meeting.
5, 4, 3, 2, holding.
Welcome to another edition of Round Table for our discussion on student achievement and innovation instruction in Sarasota County Schools. I'm your host, Leanne McIntyre, and with me today are Superintendent Lori White, School Board Member Dr. Carol Todd, and our special guest, Sarasota Middle School science teacher Jason Sharrock. So welcome, everyone.
Good morning.
All right. So we're going to start, Jason, to introduce you to the audience. So tell us a little bit about yourself and why did you become a teacher?
Well, a little bit about me. I have been a teacher in Sarasota County for the past 11 years at Sarasota Middle School. I teach on the Voyager team, and I am privileged to be a Classroom of Tomorrow teacher and a Classroom of Tomorrow lead teacher for Sarasota Middle School. And we'll talk more about that later. But just why I became a teacher, I actually was getting it from all sides. My mom is a preschool teacher. My grandmother was a elementary school teacher at Southside Elementary for many years. My aunt taught in Sarasota County for a little while. And then in addition, I was a product of Sarasota County schools.
You had no choice.
Yeah, I had no choice. And I had so many great influential teachers throughout my career as a student here. And specifically, the teacher that gave me the teaching bug was Mrs. Sigmund, who is now Mrs. Sontag. I believe she's still teaching at Lakeview Elementary. And she asked me to help another student one time, and I said, hey, I like this, and I was actually able to help them. And so that kind of gave me the teaching bug. In addition, I had great science teachers throughout my entire teaching career. I had specifically Mr. Bruce Bauman and Robert Marvin at Riverview High that were very influential in me choosing a science career.
Fascinating. Wow, that's, I mean, really, yeah, you had no choice.
I had no choice.
Well, in getting our discussion rolling on curriculum, Carol, you've been a board member for 15 years now, so you're very familiar with the quality of education that we have here in Sarasota County and the wonderful things our students do. But we're not just scores and numbers and grades, but those tell great stories about what our students are doing and what our teachers are doing. So why don't we start a little bit with that, and everybody, you know, chime in with stories and data that you have to share.
Well, thank you, Leanne. First, I'd like to say the quality of education is truly a result of the leadership that we have in the district, the superintendent and her team, our teachers, our paraprofessionals, our support staff. So it is about those people who are with our students every single day in the classroom and the leadership to help guide them. I know we don't want to spend a lot of time talking about test scores and data. However, in Sarasota, we do rank 4th in the state in our FCAT scores. We have remained an A district in spite of the rigorous standards that have been employed over the last couple of years. I believe that we are one of 5 in the state who remained an A district. And again, that is a result of the work that our staff and our teachers do in the classrooms every single day. Sarasota has 90% of our schools are A and B schools, something that we as a community can be very proud of. We score higher than the state and the nation in SAT scores, both reading, math, as well as writing scores. Florida as a state has moved from 6th place in the nation, from 34th place in the nation to 6th place. And I think that 6th place is important. And again, that's a result of what occurs in the classroom every single day, including Sarasota County. Over the past 5 years, we have eliminated approximately $124 million, more than 650 positions. And yet we still remain an A district. 90% of our schools are A and B schools. And it's a result of teachers like Jason, who have the passion, who go and work with our students every single day, that we maintained our A status, that 90% of our, and I keep saying it over and over again because it's something that we need to be proud of as a district.
We do. We need to share. Jason, from a teacher standpoint, the grades, the scoring, how does that influence you? Do you pay any attention to that?
I think I do slightly, but in reality, what matters to me the most is the students in my classroom every single day. Because every day I walk in and I try to provide the best instruction that I possibly can to get these students ready for the real world, and specifically in science and STEM careers. So I think I do pay attention to the scores, but they're really kind of an auxiliary thing for me, that I really want them, I strive to have them be good science students as opposed to worrying about necessarily what their test scores and being scientifically literate.
Right. That would lead me to ask you just a little bit about, if we're talking about teachers and what goes on in the classroom, training of those teachers. They don't just necessarily roll out of college, ready to go. We support them in that.
Absolutely, and that's ongoing because the world of education is changing every year. How to use all this technology and integrate it appropriately in the classroom. We're moving away from that teacher as sage on the stage, the one that just delivers information, to one that really facilitates collaboration. How do we get students to work together, much like they'll be working in the workplace, to collaborate, to listen and understand, but also to suggest and justify conclusions from the work they're doing and use their tools correctly to gain information. That's a whole different role for our teachers, and it takes training as these new standards come into place. We have new tools of getting data, individual student data, to the teacher so they can analyze that data, differentiate instruction appropriately. There's so many new skills for teachers to use in the classroom for that quality education experience for all of our students.
Can you talk a little bit about some of the innovative programs that we've introduced in Sarasota County? Because as you said, things are changing, they change rapidly. Technology has introduced tremendous change, and education is not what it was 6 years ago.
That's really true, because if part of our mission is to prepare our students to have success at the post-secondary experience in college, in technical schools, it is also to prepare them for the new careers, some of which we don't even understand yet. So we've really developed career technical education strands so that students begin to explore their thoughts for careers, to understand the relevance of the skills they're learning to perhaps career choices. We have more industry certifications, more CTE programs, job shadowing, internships, and integrating some of those skills into our core academic experiences. What are the relevant technical skills that we need to learn in English and writing that perhaps weren't skills that were emphasized prior to that? And I think we're finding closer relationship and relevance for our students as they go through particularly the middle school and high schools and think about their career choices.
Because that is a move that has happened, is that we're not just concentrating anymore on high school students, what do you want to be when you graduate, but we're all the way back to middle school. So Jason, let's go back to you in the middle school classroom, and no longer the presenter standing up here, okay, here's fact A, B, C, now, you know, spit it back on the test. So talk a little bit about how, maybe even in the period that you've been teaching, how that has changed for you.
Right. I definitely came into teaching and I never wanted to be the sage on the stage and just presenting, because I really think that there's value in the students actually doing the science. Because time and time again, research has proved that when students are actually engaging in those scientific activities, they are learning more than they would be if I'm just talking to them. Think about arts education. Art teachers have known this for years. Musicians. If I was a music teacher, would I just be sitting up there playing music for them for 60 minutes and saying, okay, now you're ready to play music? Yeah, you would not be doing that. So there has been a real shift in making sure that the students are actually engaging in those hands-on experiences, because without those experiences, they can't be expected to actually be able to plug into those careers and be able to have those opportunities in the future. And it's really changed. The whole model for instruction has changed, especially at the middle school level. We have something that's called the I Engage lesson design. And what I Engage lesson design is, it's having the students, the teacher plays a role as the facilitator, as you said. And what we do is we set up an activity in such a way that we model for the students what we want them to do in the classroom environment. And we give them the purpose for their instruction. We give them the language that they need to do, and we set up the task that they need to do. And so through that engaging lesson design, the students are actually the ones that are doing the work. They're doing those accountable team tasks. It's not the group work that you might remember from whenever you were in school and whenever I was in school, whenever you would have 3 or 4 people and one student would do all of the work. Right, and that's not the way it is. Teachers are being trained, as Lori was speaking of, on how to design those interdependent activities where each child has to play a role in order to be successful. And that's where the word accountable comes in. The students being accountable in doing those tasks. And I think that that's expanding through every single subject area in language arts, science, social studies, and mathematics throughout. And just to speak of some of those programs that you were talking about, the career and technical education, many schools are popping up having engineering programs. They're also having, at the elementary school level, they're starting STEAM programs, which is science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics. So they're trying to push all of these careers that will be those future opportunities that the students of Sarasota County will have, and they're trying to prepare them as early as they possibly can and get them interested to be successful.
Wonderful.
It is so exciting listening to Jason, and I just hope that every viewer calls the district and says, I want to see a tech active classroom, because they are phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal in facilitating our students' learning in the areas of math and science. And our data demonstrates that those middle school classrooms that are tech active, that the students' test scores are higher than those students' test scores who are not in the classrooms. We are rolling out the classrooms, and within the next 2 years, every middle school classroom will be a tech active classroom. But in addition, listening to Jason, the district has approached what we do with technology very strategically, and we have not followed the rainbow, so to speak. So, you know, technology changes, it changes every single day, but we have a strategic plan. We follow our strategic plan. We also modify our strategic plan when necessary, so that we are meeting the needs of our teachers, who ultimately are meeting the needs of all of our students. So, strategic decisions. We were one of the first districts, if not the first, in the country to put the active boards in every classroom, the concomitant training that went with that implementation, again, for our teachers so that they can better meet the needs of our students. But very strategic decisions that the district is making.
Laura, do you have anything to add to the STEM classrooms and,
Well, I
and what
think-
those really are, so the public has a little better understanding?
Certainly, it is. It's really the first time I've ever seen an initiative where we've coordinated what does the facility look like, what do we need to modify in the way we arrange the chairs, what type of tables really reinforce this collaborative effort. And then we've looked at what is the teacher tools that are needed, in addition, the technology tools that every student needs so that they have the computer device right at their table to share information. The teacher has the active board to present information, so those tools are critical. And then finally the training, because tools go to the side if you don't also integrate the training and what we expect a lesson to look like. And I've had a long career and seen many programs come and go, but this was the first time where we looked at every single component and had that part of the master plan, and we're looking at a multiple year rollout. So not trying to do it all in 1 year, but getting teachers like Jason that are at high performance level, they've gone through that learning process, and other teachers then can watch him and see him as a model, and it becomes part of the professional development. He can provide that professional development. So I think it's been a lot of components that we've learned. How do you roll out such a significant change in instruction?
And if I may add, we also engaged our students in the process, and that's I think that's also a very critical piece. And I will never forget at a board meeting when we were presented with information that the students helped design the tables that are used in the tech active classrooms. So they were an integral part. I mean, they are the consumers, and we involve not only the teachers, important, but we involve the students, because they are the consumers of the classroom.
Right, and that probably gives them ownership. Would you say?
Most certainly, and I was kind of on the cutting edge of the development of this classroom, along with my fellow teachers Nicole Mackenheimer and Carla Swick. Dr. Detman actually came to Carla Swick and Nicole Mackenheimer's classroom and asked the students, and had the teachers ask the students, what would your ideal classroom look like? And so they wrote, each child wrote a whole page on what their ideal classroom would look like. And then they turned them in, and I'm sure all of the students were thinking, nothing's going to come of this. This is just some exercise that my teacher's doing in order to fill up some time because she didn't have 5 minutes of the lesson plan or what have you. But they started seeing, whenever they started bringing in the cardboard mock-ups of the tables, they were going, wait a minute, you kind of talked about something like this. And the touchscreen monitors. And all of the technology to go along with it. Some of the things were pretty outlandish that they wanted and would cost several $100,000 per classroom. But some of the things, they were really feasible. And it was like a real life engineering project where everything from the tables, the floors, the chairs, to the touchscreen computers were all picked out and designed and tested by students before they were implemented in the classroom. And I think that was so powerful for them. And then some of the students who had the ideas then went on to high school, came back and said, why wasn't this done whenever I was in middle school? Because they're so jealous. What happened?
Yep.
But I think it really has allowed us to step up our instruction and the county. It's just been so, in my classroom, it's been so amazing because whenever I came into the teaching profession, there were so many things that I wanted to do. I was coming from an environment in college where we had all sorts of digital sensing equipment and everything, and I wanted to do that with my middle school students because I knew that they could handle it, and that's more real world and real life, and it will get them excited about it. And now I'm just so privileged to be able to have that in my classroom.
Right. Well, and we're dealing with a generation that doesn't know anything but technology. So it's wonderful to involve them, engage them, and it's obviously something they really kind of know about, and they want it in there. What would you say out of all of those tools in your room are maybe one or two of their favorites or your favorites? What really gets them motivated?
Oh wow. That is a huge topic because we have been, I just feel so blessed that the school district has worked right along with Gulf Coast Community Foundation to fund this program, and it's just been so amazing, all the tools that I have. I have motion sensors that you can place on a table, and the students can run back and forth and calculate speed and acceleration and velocity and all of those quantities, and they can see it happening on their huge 23-inch touchscreen computers, and they can have digital microscopes where they can be looking at pond water samples on the touch screens, and they can record videos and still shots and create flip charts and presentations about what it is that they saw. We recreated the entire cell theory in 45 minutes in my classroom, and we had pictures with descriptions, and it's just so amazing like how it steps up the levels. And we have light sensors where we can study reflection. We have photo gates where you can roll things through it and do very, very precise timing of them. We have heart rate monitors where we have the students running in place and calculating their heart rate and laying down and sitting up and seeing the difference. So there's just so many tools that make science so much more engaging and that make the students feel like that they are actually participating in real science and make them see that science is fun and science is something that they can do in their careers in the future.
Right.
And I think that that's really the whole point of the classroom of tomorrow. And you said just a while ago about how the students are really digital learners. A lot of the students were seeing in the science classroom and in all other classrooms that technology was everywhere in their lives except for the classroom. And how can that be, you know, and how can you expect to engage the students if they're not getting the type of environment that they have grown up in?
Right.
And then there's that goes back to an old saying, how can you expect the students of today with the classroom of yesterday and the materials of yesterday be prepared for the future? And you can't.
Right.
You can't. And that's really the way that this program has changed the entire district. Right now, there's 50 plus science teachers and 25 plus math teachers at the district level, and it's getting more and more every day. My wife will be one of them soon. So it's just amazing the change that has completely revolutionized the way we teach science in middle schools.
And there are other factors behind that too, of say perhaps equity between boys and girls and getting them engaged and thinking, oh, science, like I wish I'd had that because I hated science in middle school. You know, physics, forget it. Can you speak a little bit about that, Lori?
Well, for
and
these
that whole
students, it's
decision?
become some of their favorite
Classes,
subjects.
yeah.
They miss it when we aren't, because it's so hands-on. But there are other ways that we're trying to integrate that technology through our robot competitions where they're actually engineering and having clubs. And it really is filtering into high school as well, because we're doing some of this same type of concept where it is a lab situation. Gone are the days of labs with just rows of computers and just having software be the only primary technology resource. But we're actually doing a similar kind of model with the collaborative tables where teachers throughout the high school can bring students in. They've been trained in how to use these labs called TEL labs and all the resources so that we can integrate that with our high schools in multiple subject areas. It's all about students seeing possibilities where it's not just telling them here's the worksheets, here's the drill, here's the information we're going to test you on, but getting them to think, to problem solve, to work together, to find different ways of solving the same problem. That's the reality of the skills our students need to be competitive in this global economy.
And when you visit the classrooms, the students are engaged. They are talking to each other. They are working. They are not sitting in the back of the classroom with a textbook trying to keep their eyes open.
Right.
And they really are working, and they're learning, and they're working with each other. The teacher, such as Jason, is facilitating that learning process. And they are learning also how to learn, which is so important because the days are gone where a student is going to have one career for 30 or 40 years. So students are going to change careers. I'm not sure we even know what those changes are, the way technology is changing our world. But they're learning how to learn, they're learning how to think. And these skills will take them forward through their entire life. But just to watch the students engaged in the learning process, it is so exciting.
It is. It's fun to go into one of those rooms. It really is. I'd like to sort of, we're getting ready to wrap up here. So let's talk a little bit about funding, because we know we have gotten the grants from the Community Foundation, South County Community Foundation. I'm going to mess that up. We've gotten funding from the foundation for that, but you know, technology is not cheap. Education today is not cheap. How has our One Mill referendum really made a difference in our A status, our AB schools, our SAT scores, and if we didn't have that One Mill, what might we be facing?
Well, it's been critical the last few years where we've had so many budget cuts, reduction of revenue from the state. It's helped to buffer some of the impacts from the last few years. It means over $40 million in our budget on an annual basis. And that's been able to sustain arts, music, and PE. Those are critical areas. The arts provide some of that critical thinking. Some districts have eliminated those, particularly at the elementary, and just said, well, the elementary certified teacher can teach that. But they don't have some of the skills of a certified music and art teacher. We've assured that those programs are there at every level, with multiple programs at the middle school and high school programs. It also has assured that we have science teachers, specific knowledge of science at the elementary grade levels. That's with a lab that was funded a few years ago with the Selby Foundation. So we're really having high-level, hands-on science instruction at the elementary level. It also funds things like security, campus monitors. Our health and safety of our students is so critical. It also funds the technology technicians at the school level that are there to help make sure all this technology is up and running. And that you need that on-site expertise.
Right away. Yes.
In addition, it's 30 minutes of additional instructional time in every single student's day. And that's allowed us to have that 7-period day at the high school level. It gives us time to have long enough minutes in those science classrooms that they can truly do that science experiment, that they can produce that learning outcome.
Our community is incredibly supportive, and they're supportive with their dollars through the referendum, but our community is also very supportive with their time. The volunteers in our classrooms, just when you're in the community and you talk to people, they always talk about supporting Sarasota County schools. The referendum dollars, as the superintendent said, are critical. And if you can think of Jason's classroom, the traditional classroom in the 40-minute period, and trying to do experiments, as he was talking about, and those project-based activities, and the bell rings, and the students leave. Well, with the additional 30 minutes, the students get to bring their work to fruition, and that is so important for what they do.
And I definitely want to chime in on that, because I am a real stickler about having my students not pack up early and work right into the bell rings. And I am continuously telling them, if I see somebody packing up 1 minute early, how many minutes that would be over the course of a year, which turns out 1 minute turns out to be 3 hours of instruction. And having that extra 30 minutes in the school day each day actually adds 20 days of instruction onto how much time I have to instruct students. Can you imagine taking away 20 days worth of instruction? I mean, that would be unreal to me, especially in the type of classroom and the type of experiments that we're running. That's the difference between the students being able to have me explain a lab and complete a lab in the same period, and not being able to finish the lab and not having that continuity and having them have to come back the next day. And then there's labs that I wouldn't even get to because of the 20 extra days.
Right.
You know what I mean? If it's just, I would feel like I was crippled as far as my instructional capabilities if I did not have that extra time throughout the duty days. So.
Wow. Well, we are about ready to wrap up here. It's been a great conversation. So Jason, as one of those in the trenches, what are some last thoughts you'd like to leave with our viewers about what school is today for our children?
It has changed so much even in the last 11 years that I have been teaching. I started off in this county having dry erase boards and the overhead projectors. And then we transitioned to the active boards that help to engage the students. And now with the Classroom of Tomorrow, with all of the technology that is available to us and the resources and the support that's provided by the people of Sarasota County via the referendum, it is just so phenomenal, the quality of education, how I have seen it change over just such a short period of time. And I truly am looking forward to the rest of my teaching career with the support of this district, seeing how it's going to revolutionize and change the way that people teach in the district. And hopefully our district will serve as a model district so that other counties and other states will see the programs that we have and then want to emulate us.
Wonderful. Lori, any last thoughts?
You know, I participate in every graduation ceremony at the end of the year, and you watch our graduates cross that stage. And I always think to myself, have we given them everything possible so whatever post-secondary opportunity or whatever career they choose, that we've served them well? I really think we're on the road to that goal. I don't want any student to receive that diploma and not have choices and options about careers and what schools they want to get more learning. But we have to begin that process early, from our elementary schools all the way to the time that they walk across the stage to accomplish that.
Great. Thank you all so much for being here today. Very interesting topic. I'm sure our viewers learned a lot. To our viewers at home, thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see you again at the round table. All right, so now we just kind of chat. So everybody happy with that?
Yeah.
You did a great job, Jason. When
Thank
can I
you.
come to your classroom?
Whenever you want.